At the start of the first grade, my teacher held a show and tell to help kids break the ice and get to know each other better. We were given a week to decide on the single thing that we could show the class that would tell the whole world who we were. When the time came, most kids picked something expected of a 7-year-old, like their favorite toy or a picture of their dog. Aww. One kid even brought a Remington 700 to class, which was fine because this was the 90s in Alaska and Columbine hadn't happened yet. Though, from what I remember, that kid had severe anger management issues, and a few years later, he headbutted a teacher at recess before jumping the school fence and running off into the woods. After that, I made sure I was extra nice to him. You know, just in case. When it came time for me to finally show something to the class, I had already decided I was going to trump everybody else. Standing in front of the other 31 students, my hands totally empty, I put on a wide grin, pulled down my pants, and exposed my 7-year-old tic tac to everybody. "Hi, I'm Grimbles, and this is my wee-wee," I exclaimed. Despite spending a few weeks in the special needs class, being mandated to go to therapy, and the next 20 or so years of my life being spent committing similar, but nowhere near as degenerate acts, I was in my 30s before we found out I had HPD. Now, what's HPD, you might ask? Let me explain. If we break down all the Latin words, I effectively have crazy lady syndrome. No, I'm not joking. Histrionic translates roughly to overly dramatic or theatrical, and it's a disease most commonly diagnosed in women. That's not to say men don't have it, as I'm walking proof of that, but it's easier to look at a woman rebelling from a cookie-cutter mold society has put her in and go, "Yep, she's crazy. Here's a prescription for some meth, and you shouldn't let her go out in public during normal daylight hours." Meanwhile, as men, we tend to slide under the radar for significantly longer periods of time. The number of times I've intentionally ruined a formal event because I wasn't getting enough attention, or times where I've jumped off a building for an audience, is in the hundreds at this point. But I guarantee you, if I was Grimlet and not Grimbles, it would have only happened like once before a shrink said, "Oh yes, Mrs. Grimlet has HPD. Very serious. Let's hook her up to a chair and electrocute her until she's better." Now, the severity of the disease and its symptoms are different from person to person, but usually there's some dead giveaways. And I'm going to go ahead and list a few. Urge to always be the center of attention. Acting flirtatious to everyone, even people the individual is not attracted to. Seeking attention, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. Constant need for reassurance or approval, often difficult to maintain relationships with due to the appearance of being fake. Lying to make themselves appear bigger than they are. So on and so forth, you get the gist. The worst part about HPD is it's in the B cluster of mental illnesses. For those of you that haven't dated somebody with hair the same color as a poison dart frog and don't know anything about mental disorders, the B cluster is the Patrick Bateman cluster. Narcissism, psychopathy, and bipolar disorders are all in the B cluster, which means not only am I shoved into some prison bus on the way to Serial Killer Island, I'm sitting next to Norman Bates and Kanye West the whole way. Is it too much to ask for that I don't get associated with John Wayne Gacy just because I like to flirt with older women? Here's the thing, you can't even treat this disease, as most men aren't diagnosed with it until well into adulthood. We're never taught good coping mechanisms for this, and then what's worse is they don't even have drugs for the disease. The most they do is give you antidepressants, but those backfire, and instead of them fixing you, you find yourself running around screaming at your coworker that the mean doctor gave you crazy pills, and now your balls don't work right anymore. True story about the crazy pill boner thing, by the way. There's no cure. They just tell you to go to therapy, and that never really worked for me. You know what did work, though? Going to the gym and posing in front of a mirror between every set. Now, this may be speculation, but if I were to guess, I'd assume most people at a Gold's Gym have some level of HPD. And if you don't believe me, let me ask you, what else would drive a human being to wear as little clothing as possible in public, yell loudly while throwing weights, and actively trying to draw the attention of strangers towards them? Yeah, that's right, people with HPD. You want to know who else has HPD? Trisha frickin' Peytas. Yeah, werewolf girl on TikTok, at one time #1 OnlyFans earner, and the best thing that ever happened to the H3 podcast.
What do you mean that we don't need gravity?
What if it was never invented?
And it's terrible, because you know how when a kid has a lisp, they go, "Oh, hey there, little Thally. Don't feel bad. Mike Tyson has the lisp too." Or, "Oh, don't worry, Otto. Whoopi Goldberg has dyslexia too." Well, if my kid ever has HPD, I get to look him dead in the eye and be like, "Hey there, little Felix. Bad news. You have a disease that's liable to either get you shot or put on a government watch list. But don't worry about it. You're not alone. Plenty of adult film stars and probably Arnold Schwarzenegger have it too." Alright, we're going to switch gears at this point, as I'm feeling I'm walking a very thin line between being informative and spreading misinformation to be entertaining, as people with HPD often do. So instead, I'm just going to tell you some real-life examples of my HPD in action. To start with, you know how most people fantasize about saving the world or being rich? Not me. For as long as I can remember, my deepest, darkest fantasy has been to recreate Blink-182's What's My Age Again music video, but with a twist. Starting in front of a police station, I want to get completely booty cheek out naked, then cover myself in southern cooking oil and run up and down the street in front of said police department until cops start chasing me. Then I want to lead them on a chase through a busy commercial district, though preferably between the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. so no children see, until one of them gets smart enough to tase me. Then, when that taser hits that cooking grease, I want to go up in flames like a reality TV show Marriage and have the video of it posted all over the internet. Leaving my personal fantasies and returning to the real world, my HPD has often led to unintended but hilarious scenarios. You see, my personal phone has a lot of shock content I farm from dozens of Discord servers I'm on, and while I tend to stay away from gore as I don't personally enjoy seeing people die or animals being tortured, I have so much gay content on my phone, you'd think my pictures/video library was a Grindr server backup. Gotcha Moochie edits to white girl pop, bait and switch videos that end with black men shaking their booties on the camera. All of it. I have all of it. And as part of my HPD, I love to send this content to my friends. Unfortunately, sometimes that content ends up where it shouldn't be. To give you an example, one time I was fixing a cath lab at a hospital, and they made me put on what's called a bunny suit. Now, regardless of whether you're thinking of Hugh Hefner or the bunny suit from A Christmas Story, you're actually wrong on both accounts. A bunny suit is a term used in hospitals for a sterile cloth suit, like a hazmat suit you have to wear to keep from infecting an operating room. After putting mine on and cleaning the coagulated blood from an X-ray imaging receiver, I thought I looked pretty silly and decided to take a picture of it and send it to my entire family on the family text string.
Fantastic!
Unfortunately, my phone hadn't finished saving the picture yet, and when I sent the first image on my phone to my family, I accidentally sent the Ben 10 Shad-based comic instead. Yeah, you know the one.
Never mind.
Now, I would like to say that this is the only time something like this has happened, but it's a pretty regular occurrence for me. As I don't exactly have a second personal phone like some sort of shock image crack dealer, I have frequently sent stuff to the wrong people. I have sent Thug Hunter edits to members of my local church, and I've sent my brother-in-law pictures of me wearing nothing but a Borat mankini because I hadn't updated my wife's last name on my phone at the time, and his name came up alphabetically before hers. I hope one day to resolve this issue, but until then I will keep doing it every couple of months, as the alternative is to just not store shock content on my personal phone, and homie don't play that. Okay, alright, final story. Let's go back to how gyms are meccas for people with HPD, and we're going to start from there. A few years back, I started wearing a shirt that said "I love hot moms" that a gym in Kenai, Alaska had made. One day, while doing some joint work with a partner company in the lower 48, I walked into a Planet Fitness to get my workout in. The woman at the front desk, who, I'm going to add, was probably between the age of 28 and 40, noticed my shirt and gave me this whole, "Oh, so you like hot moms, huh?" Alright, look. I know what she was implying, and I wasn't going to let her insult my taste in women because she thought I was some zoomer wearing the funny haha shirt of the week. I have integrity. When I say I love hot moms, I mean it. So I fired back, and this is what I said. "Yeah, but check this. I'm not here for some 20-something or other Instagram girl out there claiming to be a mommy when they ain't ever made it to a second trimester without hitting a Planned Parenthood before. I'm here for stretch marks and cellulite. I'm talking tired eyes, unkempt hair, and a 2013 Toyota Sienna with fruit snack wrappers on the floor. Do you feel me?" Now, to her credit, the woman actually maintained her composure throughout all of this, looked me right in the eye and said, "Oh, you a freak, but you the right kind of freak. I'll let you know when I get that Sienna." After that, I had to call my wife and apologize. As she's been aware of my disease for a few years now, she understands that I couldn't have my pride as a weirdo challenged, and forgave me after making me retell the story so that she could laugh at me harassing random women in public again. She has also promised me that if my HPD ever lands me in prison, she is never paying my bail. I get to join up with whatever prison gang wants a 5'8" twink and find a way to survive with my Grimbles hood intact. Alright, that's about it for this episode. Though I do want to wrap this up by saying that HPD has led to some hilarious events in my life. But it is a serious mental illness. I have to wake up every day and actively tell myself not to do things just because they would be entertaining at the time. Things that most normal human beings never even think about doing.
Break the targets!
I have to remind myself often not to be mean to people for quick laughs, and not to lie through my teeth whenever I meet somebody new. It is actually a real curse without any real cure, just coping mechanisms to keep it under control. If you suspect you have it, I recommend you talk to a licensed professional. I did, and it allowed me to accept that this evil little voice in my head telling me to sabotage my life is actually a mental disorder and has allowed me to be better. Alright, before I go, I want to thank all of my friends and family for sticking with me and allowing me to get better. And for the friends I've lost along the way, before I knew what this was or before I had it under control, I'm sorry for being a terrible person. I truly am. You don't have to forgive me. I get it. And everyone watching this, I hope you had some laughs at my expense. I'll see you next time. Alright, the worst thing about HPD is it actually just makes you want to do the worst possible things in public. Like, you know that scene from Smiling Friends when Pim's running around screaming, "I love kids, Charlie! I love kids!" I have to actively tell myself not to quote that whenever I walk by the local elementary school or something. And it's you know that's gonna get you sent to prison, but you just got this little voice in your head that's you gotta say it anyway. Alright, I'll catch y'all later.